Ambassador Thane Caldwell suppressed a smile as the ZCAC's representative's mandibles clicked in obvious frustration. The towering insectoid had just spent the last 10 minutes trying to explain to the Galactic Council why humans shouldn't be granted full membership status, and Caldwell had responded to each point in perfect ZCAC's Rexian, including all 7 tonal variations that most species found impossible to reproduce without mechanical assistance. "This is precisely my point," Ambassador Keatstedt chittered. "It's unnatural. They've been exposed to our language for less than a solar cycle, yet they speak it as if hatched in our nursery chambers. How can we trust a species with such aberrant capability?" Councillor Venn, the elderly Meridian who served as head of the council, raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "Ambassador Keatstedt, I failed to see how humanity's gift for linguistics poses a security threat. They could be anywhere, listening to anything, understanding everything. No translation devices to intercept, no digital signals to monitor." The Z-Cathrac's antennae quivered with agitation. Caldwell exchanged glances with his colleague, Dr. Marcus Reed, the xenolinguistics expert who had helped him master ZCAC's extracts in just 3 weeks. They had expected this reaction. It wasn't the first time humanity's natural linguistic abilities had unnerved their galactic neighbors. The debate might have continued indefinitely if not for the urgent message that flashed across the council chamber's main display. The universal translation matrix struggled with the text, producing only gibberish, but Caldwell could see that whatever it was had the council members deeply disturbed. "The message originates from the edge of Drachnid space," Councillor Venn announced gravely. "Our analysts believe it may be an ancient warning system, but none of our translation AIs can decode it. The Drachnids are taking our inability to respond as a sign of aggression." The Drachnids, a warrior empire that had been growing increasingly hostile over the past year. They had discovered the message beacon in a recently disputed sector and demanded an immediate response. Their ships were already moving into attack positions. "How long do we have?" Caldwell asked. "The Drachnid fleet will reach the neutral zone in 48 hours. If we cannot provide a satisfactory response to the message by then, they will consider it an act of war." Dr. Reed stepped forward. "Let me assemble a team. We have linguists who specialize in extinct languages and pattern recognition. If it's a language at all, we can crack it." Huck's mandibles clacked dismissively. "This is a message that has stumped our most advanced AI systems. You cannot possibly, Huck." "That's exactly why it needs human minds," Reed interrupted. "AI translation works by analyzing patterns in massive data sets. But human linguists? We can make intuitive leaps. We can recognize the underlying logic of how a species thinks, not just how they speak." Caldwell backed his friend's play. "Give Dr. Reed 12 hours. If he can't make progress, we'll try something else." Councillor Venn considered for a moment, then nodded. "You have 8 hours." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Reed assembled a crack team. Dr. Soren Larson, whose work on reconstructing pre-contact alien languages had revolutionized the field, Kai Patel, a savant who could identify phonetic patterns in his sleep, and young Ash Winters, whose thesis on the relationship between biological morphology and language structure had earned him early fame in xenolinguistic circles. They worked in one of the council's secure labs, surrounded by holographic projections of the mysterious message. The symbols seemed to shift and flow, refusing to resolve into anything meaningful. "Look at the spacing," Winters said sometime in hour 6. "It's not just random, there's a rhythm to it, like breathing," Larison finished. "These aren't words. They're respiratory patterns." Patel's eyes lit up. "The species that left this message, they must have communicated through controlled breathing. The symbols represent different types of exhalations." Reed felt a surge of excitement. This was why human linguists excelled where AIs struggled. They didn't just see patterns, they felt them. "Quick, everyone grab an oxygen mask. We need to try speaking this." The next hour was spent learning to control their breathing in precise patterns, matching the ancient message's rhythm. It was like learning circular breathing for wind instruments, but with much more complex variations. With just 30 minutes remaining in their deadline, they finally had it. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a greeting and a test, left by an ancient species that had once ruled this sector. Any civilization advanced enough to decode and reproduce it would prove themselves worthy of peaceful contact. When they presented their findings to the Council, they didn't just explain the translation, they performed it. 4 human voices breathing in perfect harmony, reproducing sounds no translation device could generate. The message echoed through the chamber. Peace to those who understand life's rhythm, war to those who remain deaf to it. The Draknid ambassador, who had been summoned to witness the translation, stood in shocked silence. His species valued martial prowess above all else, but they also had a deep respect for ancient wisdom and tests of worth. The humans hadn't just translated the message. They had proven themselves worthy of the sector by the ancient species' own standards. "The sector is yours," the Draknid ambassador declared finally. "You have proven your right to it more thoroughly than we ever could." As the crisis subsided and congratulations were shared, Ambassador Kestik approached Caldwell and Reed. "Perhaps," the Zikthraz admitted, "I was wrong about humanity's gifts being a threat. They may be exactly what this galaxy needs." Caldwell smiled. "We never wanted to spy on anyone, Ambassador. We just want to understand. It's what humans do best. We listen, we learn, and we connect. Sometimes, that's all it takes to prevent a war." "Indeed," Reed added, switching to perfect Zikak Thraxian once more. "Though I hope you'll still join me for those language exchange sessions we discussed. Your dialect of High Zikak Thraxian is fascinating, and I'd love to learn more about the subtle variations in your southern hemisphere." Kaz'd mandibles moved in what Caldwell had learned to recognize as their equivalent of a smile. Sometimes, he reflected, the most powerful diplomatic tool wasn't a translation device or a warship. It was simply the ability to speak another's language and understand their way of thinking. The human linguists had proven that today, not just by preventing a war, but by showing that in a galaxy full of barriers and misunderstandings, humanity's greatest strength was our desire to break down those barriers, one word or breath at a time.